Welcome to First Class Fantasy. I am Theo Gremminger, and I'm always joined by Billy Muzio. And today we have a special guest from right here at Player Profiler, Bradley Stalder. And I'll say this, the first time I ever podcasted with Billy Muzio, it was on a Billy Muzio Bradley Stalder podcast. So we're going way, way back in the day. That was a little what was that one called, guys, back in the day? Billy Muzio, what was that one called?
The Fantasy Football Fanalists.
That's right.
Yes, that was a great. That was a lot of fun. And that was also coincidentally like the first time I crossed paths was like a B-Bag Batoba. You guys had a lot of good guests on. We drafted against one another. Then you guys both came into like the GOAT District mix, like as guests. Like we podcasted a ton of times together, but this is actually Bradley's first time on First Class Fantasy. But Bradley is one of the sharpest people we have here at Player Profiler. Really one of the sharpest people in fantasy these days. Bradley, you're putting out a ton of content, some terrific content, and people should be watching your show, Stack Hunters. You're doing a lot of best ball-centric shows on Stack Hunters. Let everybody know where they can find it, what you're doing, and what you kind of have planned for July.
For sure. So Stack Hunters is Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Player Profiler on the YouTube channel. We also stream on the X Machine, and Dan Williamson, a friend of the GOAT District, friend of everybody. Like Dan he's been a recent addition to the Stack Hunters team, and he's been awesome co-hosting most of these podcasts with me. And yes, it is a best ball centric podcast. We talk ADPs, risers and fallers. We talk targets and fades. We do live best ball drafts and offer player takes that will help you win your tournaments that you're entering, whether it is in Underdog, FFPC, or other formats. We're here for you. So yeah, check it out. Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern.
You've also spearheaded Player Profiler News, and this is something where I encourage you, if you guys support Billy Muzio and I on First Class Fantasy, not only should you be watching Stack Hunters with Bradley Stalder and subscribing to it, but everybody here who's subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to Player Profiler News as well. Bradley's sort of overseeing it in the big picture sense. We've developed a really, really, really nice team of writers as well as people dropping video content. Let everybody know about that, Bradley.
Yeah, for sure. So if you go to playerprofiler.com/news, bookmark that website. It is a stream of the most up-to-date news based on sources, The Athletic, wherever you can find the beat writers to giving us the most up-to-date information about players. And it's really helpful for not only the NFL news side, but also the fantasy spin that many of our content creators are putting near the end of the blurbs that they write. And yes, Theo, it's also video content additional to some of these blurbs. So if you go to Player Profiler News YouTube channel, you can also subscribe there. We've grown from just last summer. It started up at 0, and now we're almost at 500 subscribers. So it's continued to grow and is on a regular upswing. We've added some great shows, Player Profiler Today, throughout this past year. Wake and Take is also on there. And then Player Profiler Primetime News is also a new show that's been on fire as of late. So make sure you guys are checking out Player Profiler News YouTube. It's separate from the main channel, so make sure you're subscribing there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, you guys are definitely putting out some great stuff there, and we're bringing on some very, very strong content creators into Player Profiler News. I think it's going to blow up this year. And one other thing that's going to blow up, potentially the fireworks at the Muzio household on 4th of July. Billy, what do you have planned in beautiful Bend, Oregon?
Kids and I are going to go float the river with the wife. It's the first time down the river for them. So they're strong swimmers now. They're 8 and 6. And so we feel a little bit more comfortable with them going down the river. It'll also be kind of a precursor of letting them go in the ocean when we go to Mexico next month. And so it's just kind of a big test. And then after that, we're going to go back home. We're going to smoke some ribs, have some traditional 4th of July food. We're going to, whip out the potato salad. We're going to have some corn on the cob. We're going to do some smoked ribs, and then we're going to go watch the fireworks. I'm debating if I'm going to take the kids up at the plane at nighttime and watch it from from the airplane, but there's all sorts of shit you got to be worried about, like other planes in the area, getting too close to fireworks. And so I might keep it on the ground this year.
Pro or anti potato salad in the Stalder household?
Pro. Easy pro.
I'm like indifferent to potato salad. I don't know if that's the I like. I'll say that the GOAT for 4th of July sides, corn on the cob, and you can write that one down.
So the thing about potato salad real quick, and then we'll get back to football here. And I tell people, you probably haven't had a good one, right? It's either too mayonnaisey or there's not enough balance in the food. They didn't add vinegar to gives it that brightness. There's things you got to do to doctor it up. You can't just fucking throw mayonnaise in a bowl with potatoes. Like, it doesn't work that way.
I do enjoy a nice chicken salad, though, guys. Like every now and then a chicken salad, but I like the avocado oil mayonnaise. Life hack for you guys out there. But let's get back to football here, guys. Bradley Stalder, every single guest, First Class Fantasy, Press Coverage, Dynasty Life, gets to answer this question. If you could know the final stats of any single player this season, who would it be?
The 101, Christian McCaffrey. If I could know that he's the lock-in number one, man, oh man, that's because the struggle I have when I'm on the clock at the 101 is, am I going with Christian McCaffrey or am I going with CD Lamb? Because I think it's clearly like those two at the top. But if I could see the future and know that it's McCaffrey who's the one who's going to get hurt because he plays the running back position, like, we're going to go CD Lamb 100% of the time. So the 101 position is one where if I'm going Lamb, it's structural. But the concern is that there's already rumblings that San Francisco wants to limit some snaps, limit some touches for Christian McCaffrey, who's 28, 29 years old. And look, there's not a number two who's going to take those significant touches, but it's the, like, is there one fewer touchdown or two fewer touchdowns that's going to limit his upside? Is there going to be there's not garbage time. They're going to hold him back. So I'm if I could know if that is actually come to fruition, that there's going to be limited touches for McCaffrey, that's something that would change my mind for him at the 101.
Billy Muzio, we had a weird sort of outcome. Christian McCaffrey last year was RB1 overall and an elite weapon, one of only 4 players in the league to average over 20 points per game, the only running back to give us a 20-point per game mark, and he lapped the field RB1 versus RB2. But Billy, one thing that's a little bit of a red flag for me, slight, 67 receptions for Christian McCaffrey. So, like, went down a little bit. The touchdowns were incredible. Scored a ton of touchdowns last year, at 14 on the ground and 7 as a receiver, but only 67 catches as opposed to 85 the year before. Not a number we want to see going down for a 28-year-old running back.
No, a lot of mouths to feed in the San Francisco 49ers offense. And now you're starting to see that Brandon Ayuk says he does, in fact, want to play for the Niners. So I think he's kind of seeing the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And so I think that there's a lot of variables right now. I mean, if Ayuk did leave for whatever reason, I mean, there's a lot of targets that would be dispersed. But San Francisco does a pretty good job of evenly distributing the touchdowns. But this is an offense that just scores at a higher rate than most teams. And so 6.2% rate for Christian McCaffrey in total touchdowns. That was number one in the league at his position, and it wasn't even close. So I think that I'm not too concerned with it. He's being more efficient, right? This goes back to the argument that we had with Tony Pollard last week with Pat is, hey, are you more efficient with fewer touches and can you do better with them? And you're getting more quality out of it. And so I think that this is something that we have to be mindful of. And inside this offense, I'm fine with it because they're consistently scoring and near the red zone. So.
Yeah, and definitely check out our episode with Pat Fitzmaurice. We talked about regression candidates. I think that was a very actionable episode, as what will be this one. But Bradley, let's keep this thing going.
Sure.
Every year we see a offense that can rise tides of several players in ADP, whether that offense is mispriced or whether that offense is just kind of left for dead. There's been multiple patterns of this for like the last 2-3 years. Who would be an offense that you think takes a big step forward and can lead to multiple ADP wins?
Yeah, one of them is the Chicago Bears. You know, we saw the Bears be terrible last year just with Justin Fields, but this year we see 3 wide receivers in the top 38 of ADP now. But how realistic is it that Rome Odunze by the end of 2024 becomes the number one wide receiver, I think that's within the range of outcomes for Rome Odunze by the end of the season. Will he start that way? Probably not. It's probably going to be DJ Moore and Keenan Allen who are the target gobblers to begin. But we see this from elite talent wide receivers by the end. And Caleb Williams has the throwing talent to be able to do such a thing. He's getting the first team reps. He was declared like 2 days after the draft that, yes, Caleb Williams is our starting quarterback. He's getting first team reps. This isn't one of those Drake May, Jacoby Brissett situations or JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold situations. The Chicago Bears have surrounded Caleb Williams with Keenan Allen and a veteran trusted wide receiver who will get first downs, surround him with top 10 pick and Rome Odunze, and he still has DJ Moore, who was a top 10 wide receiver last year. So we see this offense, ascending. Then you also have pieces in the running back room, the DeAndre Swifts of the world, the Khalil Herberts of the world. I know Matt Kelly loves Roschon Johnson, but there's a lot of ways in which those Chicago backs could win and pay off with a rising tide of Caleb Williams.
So I agree with you. Chicago is going to score a lot more points. It's going to be a very improved offense, but I want to touch base on one player because I think me and you are both in that same camp of Rome Odunze, exceptional talent. Right now, he's wide receiver 46 in FFPC, right around there in NFFC, wide receiver 38 on Underdog, I think because of the people stacking and forcing, Caleb Williams correlation. Billy and I have butted heads on this one. Much like last year with JSN, Billy is pushing Rome Odunze down in your projections. Billy, I think I'm a little more enthusiastic. So take the bear approach. How do you see Rome Odunze's season projecting?
So just like Jason, I said, the guy is talented, but two things are, I think, going to hinder his breakout here in 2024. One, adjusting to the NFL speed, and two, his quarterback also adjusting to the NFL speed. And you can even add a third in here, and Bears fans are going to hate me, but the Bears organization is very disorganized and dysfunctional. And so I am not sold that that's going to change here in 1 year with the addition of Caleb Williams and the offense weapons they've had. They've never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in their franchise history. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think
this year.
No, not even this year. And I think that I think it's 30 touchdowns as well. I think is
29 is the record
number.
Eric Kramer.
And so, I mean, these are some lofty numbers for Caleb Williams to come in and hit in year one of his rookie year. You have a lot of weapons that's going to be dispersed through the team. We mentioned you have DJ Moore, you have Keenan Allen, right? You even have, Cole Kmet, who took a step forward last year. Now you have two receiving backs with DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson are the mix. So that's even more target share that's going to eat into the potential of Rome Odunze. And it's not that I'm like super low on him. I still have him projected for 91 targets. So it's not like I'm saying he's going to get 70 targets or 80 targets. Like this is a very, good number for a rookie coming into the league with these two weapons ahead of him inside the receiving game. So I just have a bit of trepidation or maybe hesitation towards the breakout. It is Keenan Allen, so there's always a chance that he's injured by week 8, and that's going to really help him step up into the mix. And so, but when I do projections, I don't like to bank on an injury. I'm a little bit more conservative in the fact. So yeah, I'm a bit down on him. I'm as a wide receiver, I think 55 right now, but there's a realistic outcome where he's, in my opinion, 42 through 46. I don't see him cracking the top 40 unless we see Keenan Allen get injured early and Caleb Williams also breaks both Bears records. So there's a lot going against them. I tend to favor the odds of statistics, and it hasn't really happened. We go back to what we talked about last week about NFL rookie quarterbacks. There's only been 2 since 2020 that have thrown for over 550 attempts, and that was Trevor Lawrence and we had Justin Herbert. So can Caleb Williams do it? Possibly. I think he's one of the best candidates to hit that number. But again, now we're talking about, how efficient he's going to be with those targets or those attempts, and can he, get the ball out and maintain, his health. So there's a lot that's going against him here as well. And so I think that he's being slightly overdrafted, but the talent is there.
We might have to have another bet, Billy, We might have to have a Ramadunze bet.
Well, let me hear it. Throw it on the table. Throw it on the table right now.
Well, what's the? We could go. What's your projection for him finishing in the wide receivers?
I have 55 right now.
Good God, Billy. I'll say it's wide receiver 38 on Underdog, wide receiver 46 on FFPC. Want to chop it in half? Want to go like wide receiver 41? I'll take the under.
I'll do 41. Yes.
Okay, so we have 2 bets on the record for the First Class Fantasy audience. JSN was wide receiver 32 and a half, right? With 32 and a half.
We have it written down. I do.
Okay, so we have a JSN bet, and we'll remind everybody. But today's not about wide receivers. The rest of the show, we're diving into the running back position. We are going to talk about some ADP head-to-head decisions. We are also going to each drop 2 running backs that we're flag planting at ADP. And we're going to hear Bradley Stalder tell us the future and tell us this year's version of Kyren Williams after we take a short break.
Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and Dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it!
Welcome back to First Class Fantasy. Theo Gremminger and Billy Muzio, joined by Bradley Stalder. And Bradley, last year we saw a couple of huge outlier hits ADP-wise at the running back position. Rachaad White, James Cook, Travis Etienne, Breece Hall, all drafted after round 3, all finished inside the top 6. Not to mention Raheem Mostert, who was sort of a once-in-a-lifetime type draft pick, drafted outside of round 10 in many leagues, finishes inside of the top 3 at the position. But sort of the one that stands out the most is Kyren Williams. This is a guy Billy and I talked about on First Class Fantasy, but we were talking about him as a guy to draft in like round 18, round 19, never with the idea that he would have done what he did last year. And you have a guy you think could be this year's version of Kyren Williams.
Yeah. If there's a top candidate, it's Kendre Miller. And Kendre Miller, remember, day 2 draft capital last year, 2023. And really the entire year was washed due to injury. Yes, there were a couple games at the end of the year where he got a little bit of run, but he was a player that we've been wanting to break out throughout the year, but he was hindered. And so now looking ahead, who's ahead of him in the depth chart? Realistically, just Alvin Kamara. And when we look at what happened with Kyren Williams, all it was before the start of the season was Cam Akers, and then Akers ends up moving eventually to Minnesota. But all it takes is one piece, the Alvin Kamara piece, to be moved out for one reason or another, whether it is an injury, a suspension, a holdout, some sort of thing for Alvin Kamara. And sure, maybe Jamal Williams gets a little bit more run, but we know what Jamal Williams is. And the Saints know that he's not as exciting as Kendre Miller could be. And there's also, Taysom Hill in the backfield, but Jawan Johnson's dealing with injuries. And I think that with Johnson dealing with those injuries, the foot injuries, they'll tend to linger, and he may be playing more of the tight end position than what he was in previous seasons. Not only because of that, but also during the summer, the reports are that Taysom Hill has been training with the tight ends. So Kendre Miller is an elite handcuff. He's getting drafted in the 130s, 120s, 130s, 140s, depends on the platform, but he's very affordable. And we look at what this offense for the Saints could be with Kubiak Now, as the offensive coordinator, I'm more bullish this year on Kubiak getting the most out of Derek Carr, Chris Olave, and therefore, if the rising tide is lifting all boats, it's also Kendre Miller here.
Billy, if Alvin Kamara went down tomorrow, where would you have Kendre Miller in the rankings?
Probably about the same spot. I don't think he's good.
Okay.
Sorry, Bradley. I think that argument makes me like James Robinson more, but you hear contrarian.
James Robinson's still in the league, Billy.
Yes. Or I like Taysom Hill more. I think there's a lot of other ways they'd go. You're hearing right now, Kendre Miller is just struggling still at the NFL level. And there was a quote by Allen, the head coach, about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that was talking about Kendre Miller still adjusting and needing to, do the basics. And so anytime we hear this, it's never a good sign from an NFL standpoint. And so I don't know. I think that they'd probably look at signing somebody. I don't think they fully trust him. I think Bradley hit, he was on point with Jamal. We know what he is. He had his great year as a Lion, but it's not going to be the same here inside of the New Orleans Saints offense. They more than likely bring in another back, or they roll with a combination of Jamal, James Robinson, Kendre Miller. You can even probably throw in Jordan Mims occasionally here from there to there. And so I'm not fully sold the fact that they would lean on him. And so RB 41 right now on underdog 42, that's a bit steep for me.
Let's go around the horn real quick. Rapid fire, guys. Your favorite handcuff running back to draft right now. Start with Billy.
I think we go back to the top of the hour. We're talking about CMC, and if right now you can get Elijah Mitchell for cheap, and we've seen him be very productive. I mean, there's the flip side of the coin that he could get injured on the same drive that Christian McCaffrey gets injured as well. But if he can stay healthy, he's been productive, and he's been very, very effective and efficient inside this Niners offense. So I think if you're in drafts and you don't get the 101 and you want a piece of the Niners offense for cheap, you can grab Elijah Mitchell late in drafts, and I think he's going to have a little bit more of a role than people are expecting.
I like
that
it.
one, Billy.
Bradley, who you got?
Tyler
Besides Kendre
Algier.
Miller.
Tyler Algier. If there is a handcuff running back who's more discounted this year than last year, it's Tyler Algier. Bijan Robinson going mid-first round. We know what Tyler Algier is, and he is a very, very good running back. He was one of the top PFF-rated running backs when he was a rookie and ran for over 1,000 yards during his rookie year. And then Bijan comes in and, can't get Tyler Algier off the field. We're so annoyed. Yes, it's partly Arthur Smith, but also it's partly that Tyler Algier is good at football. And so if Bijan ends up going down, it's Tyler Algier top 10 running back season pretty easily. And guess who's not in the backfield this year? Cordarrelle Patterson. So you've got extra receptions, you've got extra touches going toward Tyler Algier. Give me Algier as an elite handcuff as well.
Yeah, and Algier, I like that one a lot. I think this year treat him as a direct handcuff.
Yes.
Don't expect any handcuff plus, but again, it's a Jace McClellan. Like there's nobody behind him, and we've seen him have 1,000-yard season. We think this offense is going to be better, even if it's like Bijan misses 3 games. Those could be 3 games of like top 10 production from Algier, sort of like a throwback Alexander Madison behind Dalvin Cook type player. For me, it's Marshawn Lloyd. You talk about if the starter goes down, the upside. Marshawn Lloyd's a guy I can't stop drafting. That's a guy who's running back 45 on underdog, so he's a little bit pricier, but not that much pricier. And I think that he also profiles as a guy that we can use as a handcuff plus. But guys, let's get to it. We buried the lead here. ADP Battles. We're going to talk about some ADP Battles, and this is using ADP from FFPC drafts. So current FFPC drafts, these players are neck and neck. So this is not like, me saying some running back in round 3 versus some running back in round 1. These are actual OTC decisions the drafters are making every single day. And we're going to start at the top, guys. CMC goes off the board as RB1 at the 101 most drafts. But drafters these days are betting on Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall. They are side by side on underdog, literally neck and neck. And in FFPC drafts, it's Bijan at the 103 and Breece Hall at the 105. No cop out here. No, I like them both. No, they're in the same tier. Take a stance. Who scores more PPR points and who is going to return better value this year, Bijan or Breece Hall? Start with our guest, Bradley Stalder.
Bijan Robinson is my pick over Breece Hall. I think it's about a 70-30, 60-40 lean. I do want more Bijan than Breece Hall if it's a coin flip. And there are a couple reasons. One is the offense. I think that the pieces of the offense for the Atlanta Falcons are just plain better. You've got Kyle Pitts, Drake London, you've got Kirk Cousins. I mean, the difference between Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers for fantasy, close enough, good enough. But when it comes to what are the other options for the New York Jets, Mike Williams, maybe, as the wide receiver too. Maybe it's Malachi Corley. Maybe it's Gibson. They love Gibson in the Jets, but it's nothing compared to Pitts in London. And then you've got Darnell Mooney as well. So there are the offense is stronger. The defense for the Jets is also better. They're not going to get into the massive shootouts. They're not going to get a 30. These aren't going to be 35-point games from the Jets offense. 35-point games might come from Atlanta. And the last part is that the coaches have been pounding the table this offseason. Literally, Raheem Morris gets hired, and the first thing he's asked is, what are you going to do on offense? And he says, it's going to run through Bijan and Drake London. That's it. That's what we want to hear as fantasy managers. Who is it going to run through? It's Bijan.
I'm going to go jump the gun on Billy to agree with you completely. It's Bijan. Bijan is my RB1 overall this year, and call me an ageist. 28-year-old Christian McCaffrey. I'll have some, but I much prefer an opportunity to draft Bijan at like the 105 than CMC at the 101. I think an argument can absolutely be made to take a wide receiver at the 101, especially with the quality we're seeing at the 2-3 turn at the running back spot. But non-structural argument, Bijan Robinson, the knock we had on him heading into the NFL was, can he catch a lot of passes? Can he be used as a receiver? And last year, he had the third most targets in the NFL at the running back position. He had the 8th most targets all time for a running back as a rookie running back. It's insane. He only caught 58 passes because of the quality of the offense. But this is a guy who exceeded expectations as a receiver. The ceiling for him as a receiver is really high, and he is the real deal as a runner. 4.6 yards a carry last year. Only 214 attempts on the ground. That number is going to go way, way up. I think he's the real deal, and he could be the league winner. Billy, Bijan, Breece.
It's very close in the projections for me. They're separated by less than 1.5 points. But the last update that I did last night, which has not actually been reflected on the site, which would be by the end of the day, has Bijan slightly ahead of Breece Hall. And it does break down to, well, both of them are heavily involved in the passing game. They're pretty similar in that regard, but it just breaks down to the being a little bit more efficient on the ground. When we look at what Hall did last year, I understand that there were some loaded box, and there was definitely some things working against him. But true yards per carry at 3.9, RB 38. Bijan comes in at 4.4, which was RB 16. And we expect both these guys to be better. And I give a slight lean here to Bijan, just slightly edging them out.
I love it. We're all in lockstep. This one's going to be a little more interesting, and I threw one more name into this based on the show sheet because it's so close. Right now, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jonathan Taylor are neck and neck in FFPC drafts. They actually go at the 1-2 turn, 12 and 13. 15th overall is Saquon Barkley, and this is courtesy of Fantasy Mojo. That's where I pulled it up. If you want this kind of access to recent drafts, subscribe to our friends at Fantasy Mojo. But Jahmyr Gibbs versus Jonathan Taylor versus Saquon Barkley, Billy Muzio, which way are you going with this one?
These are two. I actually have these two separated quite a bit. And I have Jahmyr Gibbs in a tier above Jonathan Taylor. They're separated by about 13 fantasy points, which this high up inside of the projections is pretty. It's a pretty solid number to be separated by this amount, and it just breaks down to Jahmyr Gibbs' involvement in the passing game, having the offensive line that he's in, the offense being, a major contributor in the offense, where, Jonathan Taylor, I have some questions about his involvement in the passing game, especially in a system that we don't think is going to be throwing the ball as much as they have in the past. And so we look at JT, he saw 36 receptions in 2020, 40 in 2021, started getting injuries, 28 and 19. where Jahmyr Gibbs comes out as a rookie and gets 52 receptions. So for me, it's the edge in the passing game for Jahmyr Gibbs. Like the offense a little bit better as well, and so I give the lean. I should say actually pretty easy pick for me for Jahmyr Gibbs.
For me, it's a layup for Jahmyr Gibbs. He's clearly ahead of these two. We Sonic Truth the other day with Matt, we did some dynasty predictions, and I said Jahmyr Gibbs is a top three running back this year, along with Bijan. Spoiler alert, I had another year two running back finishing as top three in the scoring. But Bradley, like Jahmyr Gibbs, if I would have said to you last year in July that Jahmyr Gibbs is only going to have 52 receptions, where would you probably would have had him like RB24, because this whole conversation was this guy is going to catch like a Reggie Bush like outcome where he's going to be this weapon in the passing game. He actually was a little bit disappointing in the total catches last year. Like we thought he'd be 75. Now he's 52, but he still gives us this incredible season where he was RB8 in points per game as a rookie. And this offense might lead the NFL in scoring. So which way are you going? Billy and I are on Gibbs. Do you want to take a contrarian view with Taylor or Saquon?
Yeah, I'll take a contrarian view with Jonathan Taylor. I have Taylor over Saquon and over Gibbs. Taylor had been dealing with injuries the last couple of years. And also, I think the Anthony Richardson is, once again, an elevator in terms of what they can do on offense. We talk about what type of target share Jahmyr Gibbs can get. We're talking like a 15% target share. I have him projected for 80 targets, which is a respectable amount of targets, almost 60 receptions. So it's a matter of, for Jahmyr Gibbs, are they going to give him more of the goal line work? We're not really questioning, is he going to get 15% of the targets? We're questioning, is David Montgomery going to be the goal line back, or is it going to be 40% Montgomery, 40% Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of rushing share, because it's only going to be those guys. So I think that when it comes to the touchdown upside, the rushing touchdown upside, Jahmyr Gibbs is limited by, they like David Montgomery. I've lived 20 minutes outside Detroit. They love Monty, and the coaching staff loves him. And so he's not going to be pushed over, even though Jahmyr Gibbs is the transcendent talent in that running back room. Monty's going to earn his touches. Monty's going to earn some receptions, some targets, and Gibbs is not, they want him to be in the Swift role. And the Swift role was not a high amount of, they want to use him in space. They want to use him schemed touches. They don't want to just run him between the tackles, because they saw for years Swift get hurt. And Jahmyr Gibbs dealt with a little bit of injury issue as well last year. So I think they want to keep this dynamic running back healthy, and they're going to be very smart about how they utilize him in the touches, which is why I have Taylor and Barkley ahead of Gibbs in my projections.
Let's go back to Billy for this next one. And Billy, we're actually going to eliminate Derrick Henry from this, because a recent ADP, he sort of separated himself from these two. So let's specifically look at Travis Etienne versus DeVon Achane. And this is a real OTC decision in multiple formats right now. Sort of the two third-round running backs that a lot of people are betting on. But Henry used to be in this range, but it seems like he's creeping a little bit more into like the mid-round 2 level. So let's leave him out of this. Specifically, Achane versus Etienne.
I'm going to get roasted for this, but I have Etienne pretty high in comparison to Achane. I actually have him ahead of Jonathan Taylor, and so
I have Etienne ahead of Taylor too. We've talked about that on First Class Fantasy. So you're right in one. You're not going to get roasted because I love that one.
If the fantasy receipts are out, they're going to be getting me. No, there's a lot of targets that are available here in Jacksonville. We have Ridley who's out. They bring in Gabe Davis, but Gabe Davis is not somebody who's going to command a lot of targets. They get the rookie in who's going to do well in the offense, but again, not somebody that's going to see like 130 targets in his rookie campaign. So there's a lot of targets to go around. We saw the success that Etienne had last year in this offense, the trust factor as well. It kind of broke out. These guys have been playing together since college. And so there's a lot of things that you can like about Etienne. I just like what he was able to do last year, being on the field all year, what he's able to do in the passing game, he's able to do in the rushing game. He's a complete package for me. I love Etienne as much as I like Achane and being able to, like his explosiveness. There's a lot of people in that offense. And, Mostert had, a career year last year. He's not going away. He's still going to be there. They go out and draft another explosive rookie who's going to be involved. For crying out loud, you still have Jeff Wilson on the team for now. And so, yeah, he's going to be, way behind the other guys, but still, I mean, there are mouths to feed in this offense, and people are going to, I think, be a little disappointed in the amount of touches that Achane is going to get in comparison to what they're expecting him to get.
The utter disrespect from Billy Muzio. Bradley, who you got?
Oh, it's DeVon Achane. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's not get crazy here. Look, the efficiency was massive for Achane last year, but that only happens when you've got an offense like Mike McDaniel's, right? The pathway for him to repeat at least close to that level of efficiency still exists. We're still in on the Miami Dolphins offense, and Mostert, he's not getting any younger, and Jalen Wright has got to learn the offense. So the pathway for Achane, who is trusted and proven in this Miami Dolphins offense, I mean, imagine if Tyreek Hill goes down. Yes, it's going to be more Waddle, but Achane gets some targets. I have Achane for 46 receptions in my projections, 63 targets, and not even 200 touches. So I'm not expecting him to be, getting these massive amounts of touches. The efficiency can still be there. He can still get his, 15 or 12 touchdowns and pay off massively. The upside for Achane is RB1 overall.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. The pathway to RB1 overall exists for him. Is it likely? Like Bijan, Breece deserve to be above him for sure, but we can't ignore that Achane is just so explosive and the offense is catered to take advantage of that type of skill set. So I'm here for Achane over Etienne.
Yeah, and I like Etienne, but it's Achane.
Yeah,
it's definitely Achane. I'll say for Etienne, 267 carries last year, which was a big increase for him from 2022. The yards per carry went down, but the stat bros love getting mad at me when I bring up yards per carry, and they say, "Yo, it's not static, Theo. It's not static." And I'll say, "Okay, that's fine." So it's not static. Maybe he goes back to 5.1 yards per carry.
Real quick.
Oh darn, 5.1 yards per carry.
Real quick. Bradley, how many rushing attempts do you have projected for Achane?
152.
Okay, we're in the same ballpark, 161. So what you have is efficiency then at like 7 yards a carry still.
Yeah, what is it? 789 divided by 151. I don't know. 5.2. I have 5.2 yards per carry.
But here's another one, Billy. Like him taking a step forward as a receiver. If I am self-scouting the Miami Dolphins and I am Mike McDaniel, I'm saying I'm going to get this player involved as a receiver as much as possible out of the backfield. They lack a clear number 3 target in the passing game. They have running backs who can take volume, and getting DeVon Achane involved more as a receiver unlocks so much for him. And this time last
60
year,
targets.
I think he could.
63 targets for me. So
I think he'll get more than that. I think he'll get more than that. Yeah. So the upside case is clearly Achane, but structural drafting, I'm totally fine with Travis Etienne. If I go wide receiver, and I end up with Travis Etienne as my RB1, I'm okay rocking and rolling.
Definitely.
But with Achane, I feel like I have a real edge with that structural build. So I am on that one.
The 5'9", 188 pounds scare you a bit? It does me in the NFL.
I think that guys who are outliers, they exist sometimes, and you get players like that who, and I think he's north of that, Billy. He looks like he's put on some weight. He didn't have the track and field
he ate
to
some
deal
veggies.
with.
He grew a little bit.
He reportedly put on weight this offseason.
He looks like noticeably.
He's 191 now. He's almost Chris Johnson size.
Listen, I think that you just said the word Chris Johnson. I didn't, but Chris Johnson, Jamal Charles, and I'll tell you this, Bradley, they were fading Alvin Kamara heading into year 2 as well. This is a DeVon Achane to the moon. Just draft them, everybody. Now I have a really fun one, though, guys. This is a really, really fun one. James Cook versus Joe Mixon. And this is another sort of pocket of value here. These guys are neck and neck. These are end of the 4th round running backs. So this can be a RB2 if you start RB in the first round, or this could be if you're in a zero RB type build, this might be your RB1. And they're both guys that finished inside of RB1 land last year. Joe Mixon finished higher than James Cook. Obviously, Joe Mixon in a new situation in Houston. Both of these guys are being drafted as high-end RB2s. I like them both. Which way are you going? Let's start with Bradley on this one.
Yeah, Joe Mixon is my number 11 overall player in my projections. He is a player. I'm ahead of consensus on James Cook, but I'm way more ahead on Joe Mixon. The Mixon gets the targets, 50+ targets. He's getting the rush share. We're talking about arguably the best offense in the NFL. Devin Singletary is gone. The Texans hate Dameon Pierce. Jawar Jordan, come on. It's going to be Joe Mixon. So let's not overthink this. It's clearly Mixon. He's going to get the goal line work. He's going to get the rushes. I have him for 225 rush attempts, over 900 yards, 9 touchdowns, 50 targets. This is the way. This is the pathway to be paying off. Just let these players come to you in round 4, round 5, round 6. I mean, come on, Theo. It doesn't have to be rocket science.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be rocket science. And this is one where, Billy, I really want to say I like them both. But where are you at on this one, Billy?
I'm with Bradley on this one. I prefer Joe Mixon. He's my RB. What is he? RB number 9 right now. So I'm pretty ahead of ADP on Joe Mixon as well. Breaks down to the offense, like Bradley mentioned. But the other part is it breaks down to the offensive line. I mean, he was in an abysmal offensive line for his entire career up until this point. Now he steps into Houston Texans in a much improved area, a much improved offense too, in my opinion. It's hard. It's kind of hard to imagine thinking you're going from the Bengals, who are pretty electric when Joe, when everyone is healthy, and then now all of a sudden, he steps into this offense. It could be even better. And have the offensive line improvement. So Bradley hit on all the details about the development in the passing game, the total targets. I agree with it all. I think Joe Mixon's primed for another big year.
I like to consider myself an ageist at the running back position, and I really wanted to make a case for James Cook. But when I look through it objectively, it's a James Cook. There's some guys behind him that I think they're going to mix in. I mean, I think the whole Ray Davis being there, the potential for Ray Davis to take away the goal line carries, Frank Gore Jr. to be mixed in a little bit. I love James Cook. I think he's electric. But at the end of the day, Joe Mixon's going to have more touches than James Cook. Joe Mixon's going to have a ton of touches. And when we look at how successful Devin Singletary was in this offense down the stretch last year, Joe Mixon is a upgrade in every single way. This is an offense that I think is taking a big step forward. I think Joe Mixon is going to score a lot of rushing touchdowns. I think just falling in the end zone in this offense, and him being utilized as a pass catcher with all those threats at wide receiver, he's going to have games where he's just very, very effective because that's what the defense is offering. And we've seen CJ Stroud be a very tight, non-forcing it, and a guy who doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. I think he'll take what the defense gives him. And I think a lot of games that's going to be Joe Mixon underneath. So we are actually all in lockstep on that one. One more, guys. This one is a classic old versus pretty young, and it is Ken Walker against Alvin Kamara. We're starting to get, for this one, down into round 5. So there's a little bit of a gap between the Rachaad White, James Cook, Joe Mixon tier down to Kamara versus Walker. Last year, Kamara finished as an RB1. Kenneth Walker was inside of the top 20 at the RB position. I believe he was RB19. Where are you at on this one, Bradley?
I do have Kamara projected ahead of Kenneth Walker, but the floor for Kamara could be so scary given the age cliff and given his lack of efficiency. Over the last 3 seasons, Alvin Kamara has 4.0 yards per carry or fewer each of those 3 seasons. So it's been through the targets. I have Kamara projected for 14.5% target share. Kenneth Walker only at 8. It's hard for me to see a pathway for Kenneth Walker to get 50 targets this season. And look, we like the goal line work that Kenneth Walker can have. He's got some explosiveness to his game that certainly Alvin Kamara does not. But the the median outcome and the ceiling outcome is just so much higher for Alvin Kamara, even if the floor is a little scarier.
It feels good to kind of go young again. And after going Joe Mixon in the last ADP debate, Bradley made a great case. It's Ken Walker for me. Billy, where you at?
I'm with Bradley on this one. It's also broken down the passing game for me. Kenneth Walker at 6.5% target share versus Alvin Kamara at 15.5%. I think you could even argue that's closer to 17% with the injury to Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill. Not necessarily, going to be someone who's going to be commanding targets inside of the tight end room. And so Alvin Kamara, for instance, he missed 4 games last year due to suspension. He still finished with the second most targets in the running back position at 87. As old as he is, 28, almost 29 years old, he's not somebody that's, just been ran into the ground. He's only eclipsed the 200 rushing attempts twice in his career since 2017. A lot of his work has been done in the receiving game, consistently with over 80 receptions. And so I think that he's a little bit younger body-wise than the average 28, almost 29-year-old. And I'm not as concerned about the age as most people are. He's my RB13, and I actually have him, one spot ahead of James Cook in the previous discussion.
Okay, so this next one is very interesting. You're talking about sort of the tail end heading into RB20 land. And I saw somebody on the show sheet wrote Rachaad White. It is actually not a Rachaad White question. It is a Zamir White question. It's Aaron Jones versus Ramondre Stevenson versus Zamir White. These 3 guys are all going within 4 picks. These guys are neck and neck. Aaron Jones on a new team, Zamir White with a new opportunity, Ramondre Stevenson as sort of a post-hype sleeper who just got the bag. Let's go to Billy Muzio on this one.
Aaron Jones for me, man. I feel like I'm picking all old guys today. I guess I am, but it's here we go. Another 29-year-old running back.
Billy Muzio here.
Jeez, it's
likes his running backs old.
But a lot of these guys that we're talking about are receiving backs. They're not guys that were out here getting 250, 300 rushing attempts. And so again, a little bit more tread on the tire. Aaron Jones, breaks down to, can he play a full 17 games or 17 season? He only did it once in 2022, his entire career. So I do think though his involvement in the passing game puts him in another tier here above these guys. And when he does stay healthy, he's been very, very efficient on the ground. So 2021, 4.7 yards per carry, 2022, 5.3 yards per carry, 4.6 in 2023. And you can even go back to 2020 at 5.5. So explosive player when he's healthy, heavily involved in the passing game. This is a clear cut lead back for me. And again, just not a lot of touch competition. I mean, I like Ty Chandler, but this is not a guy that's going to come out here and run the ball for 200 times. So I think that it's a pretty clear one, for Aaron Jones, not only on the ground attack, but also in the air. And anytime you can dominate both inside the touch share, it's a recipe for success and projections.
All right, Bradley, can we go slightly younger with your answer?
We won't be going younger, Theo. I looked at my projections as well, and Aaron Jones, the upside case for Aaron Jones is so massive. We saw what he was able to do even last year. In week 1 last year against the Chicago Bears, he played 46% of snaps and was the RB1 overall before leaving the game early. He only played 2/3 of the game and was the RB1 overall in that week. So Jones still has it. And then we saw the massive 3-touchdown game against the Cowboys. Aaron Jones still has explosiveness. 50% of the carries, I think, is fair, and he's going to miss some games. But we're talking about a guy who can get 50, 60 plus. I have him projected for 65 targets, 50 receptions. He will catch a lot out of the backfield. The Kevin O'Connell offense is always going to be a high pass volume one. And let's suppose it's not. Then he's just going to get more rushes. So there's been a little bit of chatter on the X Machine timeline lately about, JJ McCarthy. Is it going to be Sam Darnold? Blah, blah, blah. And I think for Aaron Jones, as long as he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to be explosive. So he's the answer at this spot.
Yeah, for me, guys, I want to go. I don't think there's. I don't think Jones is a bad answer, But for me, I'm believing a Ramondre Stevenson bounce back. I believe Ramondre Stevenson is well priced at his ADP, and I believe this is an offense that's going to lean on him a lot. I know there's the presence of Antonio Gibson, but I think it's going to be an RB-centric offense. We saw Ramondre Stevenson when he was able to do 2 years ago. I understand a lot of the receptions were sort of out of necessity on that team, but I'm not so sure that you're not going to get off to a really fast start. And I do believe that Ty Chandler is going to be used maybe a little bit more than I think you guys are. The way he ended last year, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a split backfield. Obviously, Jones is the one you want, but I think Chandler will be a little bit of a headache, especially if they utilize Chandler as a receiver out of the backfield. So that's sort of where I'm at on Stevenson. Okay, we got one more of these guys. One more.
Theo. I'm just happy that you didn't keep going younger and younger. We were going to have to, at least you got a 26-year-old back in here. We're about to pull Chris Hansen, catch a predator over here.
Listen, guys, I was on Joe Mixon over James Cook. I don't know how old you don't want me to get. Yes, when it comes to the running backs, guys, I do like the young running back. It's just the way I'm wired most of the time. Although I will say in a dynasty startup this weekend, guys, I went with one of the dustiest moves ever. It's round 15. I'm playing catch up at running back. I had the 1502 and the 1503, and I double tapped Rico Dowdle and Zeke Elliott. So I'm just going to bet on Dallas giving me a usable running back. I actually don't hate it so much, but that's about as dusty as it gets, Billy. So I'll take, that's a hat tip to me for going super, super old and dusty.
Gross.
Let's go with this one. This one is, this is actually a nice mix of older back with a younger back. We have a tier of DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, James Conner, and Najee Harris. And these 4 running backs are actually going back-to-back right now. Let's start out with Billy on this one.
Okay, I'm going to go with the youth here, Theo. I'm going to go ahead and go with Brooks.
You know what? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's actually 5. Let me repeat this one because I misread this. Give you one more option. DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, James Conner, Najee Harris, Jonathan Brooks. So it's 5 choices here, and this sort of ends RB2 and starts RB3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed Monty, so I am going to go back to age here. So I'm going to go back. David Montgomery's inside my top 20. So this is a guy that I have ahead of Stevenson, ahead of Jaylen Warren, ahead of Tony Pollard, right there with Kenneth Walker, honestly. Like I haven't separated Walker by just like 1 touchdown. So David Montgomery goes back to Bradley said. We know that Detroit loves this guy. He's the goal line back. This is an offense that is a pretty clear lightning and thunder and the involvement that we're going to see from Monty inside the red zone, any given time. I mean, we talked about Jamal Williams topped the hour and how he had his one good year with the Lions, and David Montgomery soaking up all those goal line touches. So pretty clear, David Montgomery. I'm going to stick it to the old age here, until they can walk off the field into Walker or Achane, but David Montgomery wins for me.
It's a fun fact, Bradley, you might not have known about Billy Muzio. His favorite show, and he watches it every evening, Golden Girls. Who would know?
Wheel of Fortune too.
And Wheel of Fortune, just back to back in the Muzio's household. Bradley.
Got my life alert. Got my life alert next to me.
We got Bradley Stalder's flag plant here.
Yes.
You got to take your guy, right?
This is Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah.
This is my guy. My guy, Jonathan Brooks. And look, I don't care about the first 4 weeks of the season. Chuba Hubbard can have those. It's the rest of the NFL season. It's going to be Jonathan Brooks' season. Dave Canales is going to use him like Rachaad White, only Jonathan Brooks is better than Rachaad White in terms of talent. And so he's going to use him in the passing game. He's going to use him between the tackles. They used a 2nd-round draft pick on Jonathan Brooks. There's not a lot of other playmakers, but at least Deontay Johnson is now on this team. So we like at least the prospects of the quarterback whisperer that is Canales, who turned around Baker Mayfield, right? Who turned around Geno Smith. We forget that he was the one who turned around Geno Smith. So we are hoping and praying that he can also do his voodoo on Bryce Young. But this Carolina Panthers offense is going to be leaning extremely heavily right away on Jonathan Brooks, who's not even 21 years old yet. He's coming off the ACL tear, but as I said, I don't care about the first 4 weeks. Chuba Hubbard's cheap enough. If you want to get a handcuff for the first 4 weeks, sure, go for it. Jonathan Brooks, he is in my projections. Wow. He is running back 13 in points per game projected for me.
I'm going Jonathan Brooks as well. And I can totally understand Billy's argument for David Montgomery. And he's a guy that I am also very high on drafting here. And I actually think, not to get too nuanced here, this can be a structural argument. If I need to get immediate RB2 production out of this pick, which is very possible, for some, this could be an RB1, depending on the way they draft, if it's a real zero RB team. But let's say it's a team that started out 3 straight rounds of wide receivers. Maybe they grab their tight end, and they need to go running back in rounds 5, 6, or 6, 7. To me, David Montgomery is a perfect player for that because of the quality of the offense and what I expect to get early in the season. But if I'm looking for a top outcome hammer, it's Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is also going to catch a ton of passes. He will be more of a check down for Bryce Young than I think some people realize. He has a true 3-down skill set. Like Bradley said, we've already seen Dave Canales use a running back like this with Rachaad White. And Jonathan Brooks is also just really good at football. If he didn't have the injury, I think he would have been a first-round pick in the NFL draft. That's how good he is. So really, really fun.
Did Bradley say RB13?
RB13?
Yes.
See,
and I've said he's a top 15 running back as well. I said that I made that statement on another show, like Dynasty Life.
Wow,
and I said that the way it's going to go with Brooks is I don't think he's going to have the rushing touchdowns in that offense that could propel him into like a really, really big league-winning type season.
I only have 6 touchdowns projected on the ground for him.
That's the problem where, like, let's say that there, and I've had this, and I'm actually curious your take on this one, Bradley, because I know you're high on this player as well. But I said if let's say Jonathan Brooks is ready to go for day one, and let's say James Conner gets injured in August, I think Trey Benson would score more points than Jonathan Brooks if we're looking for like a complete upside a rookie play, if I'm looking for a contingent play. But I think that at the end of the day, Jonathan Brooks is just such a safe player because they're going to leave him on the field on third downs. He's going to be used as a receiver, and he can handle a workload as a runner. He's the real deal talent-wise. Billy, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, for those who are either tuning in with us for the first time or don't know the dynamics between me, Theo, and Bradley, this is why I like to hang out with these guys. They smoke some good shit, and we get to, have a lot of fun and talk the numbers. No, all jokes aside, Brooks he's dynamic, but can the Panthers propel him into a top 15 running back season? That's my question. Are they good enough? Are they going to load the box? Are they going to be that bad to where he's going to struggle? Is he going to have a slow start coming off the injury? I understand the allure of Brooks, and he was a special talent in college, but I think he's got an uphill battle in year one, and I love him as a talent, and I think he's going to succeed, but it's a little bit of a stretch, I think, for at least the half the season. So in points per game, I can see it, Bradley, but total fantasy points, I have a little bit harder time seeing it.
Bradley, we've had more than 10 years in a row, I think, of a rookie running back finishing inside of the top 20. And there's sort of a one of them's going to do it type argument. It's not the one Billy wants to hear, but a rookie running back is going to be there when we get to the end of the year. Brooks is the best bet at this point.
I think so. And we look at what like Todd Gurley, started slow when he was a rookie, and then boom, after 3 games, he put the league on notice. So I don't know if Jonathan Brooks is necessarily Todd Gurley level, but Todd Gurley minus a little bit still got you fantasy goodness year one. So we're here for Jonathan. I'm here for Jonathan Brooks, and depending on the platform you're drafting on too, Theo, yes, he's going round 6 in FFPC, but in like non-high stakes formats, he's going in the 85s, 90s. I've seen him even go outside the top 100 in certain best ball formats. So yeah, like Jonathan Brooks is a smash spot. And I agree with you in your nuanced point about Jonathan Brooks. I love him if he's my RB3. I'm not as big on him if he's my RB1. Like, I agree that the structure does play into it in how you have to navigate your team. But from a points per game perspective, Jonathan Brooks is my RB13.
So these ADP battles were good enough for a show, guys, but we're going to give a bonus. We're going to give right now our top 6 running backs. We're going to give 2 each that are our favorite picks at ADP right now. And as a little caveat, we're staying inside of like the top 100 in ADP. We're not going top. Where's your cutoff, Billy? Let's say 150 in ADP. So we're not going to the depths. If there's some 18th round guy that you guys love clicking the button on, that's not gonna fly here. We're staying inside the top 150 at ADP. We're using underdog ADP, and we're gonna start with Billy Muzio because Billy, you have a running back that I cannot stop drafting, and why don't you talk about it from an ambiguous backfield?
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about our guy Jaleel.
Oh, okay. I thought we were starting at the top. Yeah. So,
apologies.
I guess it makes sense because Henry is not an ambiguous backfield. So there's a little sneak peek there for you. Jaleel. Okay, this one breaks down to Javonte, and I think he's going to finish higher than people think he's going to finish. But I just think that Jaleel is electric talent. I think that he is putting in the work. You hearing from Sean Payton that Jaleel is the first guy to the field and the last one to leave. Every time you see this from a coach who kind of really picks his guys and then leans on those guys, Payton is one of those people that when he finds his guy, he really leans on him. Like we saw the Taysom Hill, he brings over his tight end, and so there's a lot of benefits of Payton, and he has his nuances. And when you can get on his good side, he's going to take care of you inside the rotation and utilize you. I like Jaleel. I think he has the ability to really kind of break out in the passing game as well. And so RB 48 right now on underdog, he's inside the top 41 for me in the projections. I think a real scenario where he finishes probably like 37, 38 inside of the fantasy scoring. So love Jaleel, love his opportunity, and I think that he has every chance to kind of steal some touches from Javonte, if not win the role outright.
I'm completely with you. I love Jaleel McLaughlin. We've talked about him. Draft away, everybody. That ADP is going to rise, Billy. Bradley, who's your first guy?
Yeah, Bijan Robinson for Washington. He's going as RB 38 right now. He's running back 21 for me in my projections. And look, it doesn't matter that Austin Eckler is there. Like, Bijan Robinson is still going to be trusted with 230 touches. My projections have him at 190 carries and 26 receptions. So 215, sure. But let's say that's including Austin Eckler still being pretty involved in this Washington offense. Let's say Eckler does go to dust. Let's say he does go to zero. Bijan Robinson was able to put up multiple number 1 or number 2 overall weeks last year, and he was proving that he could be utilized in the passing game. So now with a competent quarterback in Jaden Daniels, Heisman winning quarterback Jaden Daniels, this Dan Quinn, who knows what he's doing, he's not Riverboat Ron. He's led Matt Ryan Atlanta offenses before. Bijan Robinson is the trusted number 1 option in the backfield. And look, Eckler may get sprinkled in here and there, but there wasn't a strong market for Austin Eckler this offseason. There were questions about whether he still had any juice left. Bijan Robinson has some juice.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that offense is trending up. We want to take some shots on Commanders, and I think a number of them could return at ADP. For me, we already touched on him earlier. It's Ramondre Stevenson at RB20. Mondre is in a really good spot to return value on his current ADP. I think that he could get back into RB1 land, but if not, I think he's a top 15 player. I think he's going to beat his ADP by at least 5 spots, and I think structurally he gives me a really solid foundation. He's going off the board on underdog at 82 overall. It's sort of the wide receiver monsoon, the wide receiver avalanche has pushed some of these running backs down to a decent value. Ramondre Stevenson is a rare size receiving ability back, where we've already seen him have a 69 catch season 2 seasons ago, and we've already seen him go over 1,000 rushing yards. He had nearly 1,500 combined yards that season. I think the Patriots are really going to lean on him. They re-signed him. He is the 7th highest paid running back in the NFL right now. They showed you what they think of Ramondre Stevenson with the contract that they awarded him. When guys like Najee Harris are not getting renewed, and the Patriots are going for a guy in the same draft class and signing him to a contract like that, I think they view him as a foundational piece of their offense and a guy they're really going to lean on with either, Jacoby Brissett or Drake May behind center this year. Billy, back to you. Who's another guy that you're very strong on at ADP?
Derrick Henry right now. This is the guy that I think you could make a real argument should be drafted with the likes of Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Barkley in that tier. Goes from his old team, the Titans, over to the Ravens, running in RPO system. This is the team that has the most run plays per game inside the 2023 season. Now you add the big dog over there. It's only going to add to that total. They've ran the ball 31.6 times a game last season. Red zone touches, even Gus Edwards himself was RB18 with 41 red zone touches. You look at the yards per carry that Gus Edwards had inside this offense, 5.0 in 2020, 5.0 in 2022, 4.1 in 2023. That was on almost 200 attempts. You throw Derrick Henry in here, who's a far superior talent. And yes, I guess he is old, Theo. But that being said, it's just, I think, a far better fit for him than Gus Edwards was in this offense. And I think King Henry's going to eat this offense.
I agree with you. And I think it's a great year for starting out your draft with a running back in round 2 or round 3. And I think there's an argument, Billy, that some of these teams that start out in a big scale tournament, running back, or running back, wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver, running back, are going to have really good win rates because there's a lot of talent there. And I'm with you. It's the best offense Derrick Henry's ever played in. It's the best quarterback he's ever played with. And we feel really good about Todd Monken, the offense coordinator. Maybe not in the championship game of the AFC, but collectively for the year, Monken was the real deal. So I'm completely with you on that one. Bradley, where you at?
Yeah, the last one, I've already touched on him a little bit. It's Joe Mixon. We just need to be drafting more Joe Mixon. There's a lot of hatred for, this old dusty running back, blah, 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 blah. His price tag is on Underdog 60th overall, or about 60th. Like, you could easily start first 4 rounds getting 3 wide receivers, a tight end, or a quarterback, and then you get Joe Mixon, who has pathway to be top 7, top 8 running back, and then you're just you're tapping running backs the rest of the way. Mixon is, I mentioned the offensive line is improved. They're going to get into shootouts. The Texans went very pass heavy near the end of the season, but that was because the running backs really struggled. Like Singletary was not getting it done on an efficiency perspective, but also Dameon Pierce was letting them down. So I think that there is going to be more of a shift to a little bit more run heavy. And look, Joe Mixon, we've seen massive spike weeks from him on the Bengals. Why not also on the Houston Texans?
I love it. I love what you guys both had to say about Joe Mixon. It makes me want to draft more of them. For me, it's DeVon Achane. I talk about him every chance I get on this channel, on every show I can. People are getting annoyed by it. That's how much I talk about him. But we see this kind of opportunity in this range of the draft, and I think we have to take shots on him. He could be a 20-point per game scorer. It's arguably the league's best offense, arguably the league's best play caller. Draft DeVon Achane. And a bonus, since people are like, you only say Javon Achane, Jerome Ford, RB39. It's the anti-fade Nick Chubb play. It's a strong one. Billy, you were awesome today, as always. Bradley, thanks for joining us. I would love to have you back, Bradley, to do another positional breakdown down the line. And I love our discussion on structural drafting. I think that's why you listen to a show like First Class Fantasy. Bradley, let everybody know where they can find you once again.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at FFStalder. You can find my show Stack Hunters on the Player Profiler channel, 8 p.m. Eastern. And also subscribe to the news desk, playerprofiler.com/news, where the news team puts together some great content for y'all. Make sure you bookmark that and subscribe to Player Profiler News YouTube channel as well.
Billy, what do you have going on?
Chilling in the rankings department, doing rankings, doing the podcast here weekly with you. I finally got you that Christian McCaffrey write-up. You've been bothering me for about 3-4 weeks. So got that done. Been working on, the app on the backside. I hope we launch soon. We're getting closer and closer to draft season for the masses. So I keep saying keep your eyes and ears open, but it is going to be launching soon. So it's happening. I promise you it's happening. But it's been a big project on the backside.
Yeah, and speaking of big projects, our draft kit is launching soon, the world-famous draft kit. Contributions from Bradley Stalder, contributions from Billy Muzio. rankings from all three of us, individual rankings, as well as Dario Offstein's rankings. It is extensive. It is a very, very deep draft kit, a lot of information on teams, a lot of information on players, but we think it's going to help you win. And we think First Class Fantasy is going to help you win this season as well. Have a wonderful 4th of July weekend, and we will see you back here soon.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.